What's a fact you know that almost everyone is wrong about? The Mayans didn't disappear or go extinct. They still live in Central America and speak at least 24 different Mayan languages. The last Mayan city didn't fall to Spanish conquest until 1697. Robin Williams didn't kill himself because he was depressed. He killed himself because he had Lewy body dementia, a degenerative brain disease. His autopsy showed that he had one of the worst cases ever seen. His wife has confirmed that he had about 50 symptoms, and depression was one of the least intense. His best friend, who has a name I can't possibly spell, Bobcat Goldthwait, has also confirmed it wasn't depression or substance abuse that caused him to commit suicide. A heart attack and cardiac arrest are not the same thing. Some severe heart attacks can lead to cardiac arrest. However, there are many that experience heart attacks unknowingly and carry on their merry way. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thank you so much for the upvotes, and thank you kind stranger for the award. This is really specific, but in most anatomy or biomechanics textbooks the ankle joint is classified as a second class lever with the ball of the foot labeled as the fulcrum. This is incorrect as the system rotates about the ankle joint, not the ball of the foot. Therefore it is a first-class lever, not second. This right here is the hill I will die on. Your flight isn't delayed because the tower says so. They blame it on us, air traffic control, because if the airlines admit the blame on themselves they may have to reimburse you. Edit. It's weather 90% of the time. If you end up in a higher tax bracket, only the income above that bracket gets taxed at the new percentage. Diamonds can in fact be shattered with a hammer. There is a difference between how strong something is and how hard it is. A defibrillator will not restart a heart. It will only stop fibrillation. Edit. Holy fuck. Didn't expect that. Dopamine isn't a pleasure chemical. You see the misconception all the time. Someone indulges in their favorite vice and says, "Gotta get my dopamine rush." But dopamine isn't about pleasure. It's about craving. Our dopamine levels don't spike when we get something we want. They spike when something we want becomes available, and go down once we actually get the pleasurable thing. Dopamine isn't the rush of driving fast. It's the green light that tells you to go. Edit. Obligatory thanks for the silver and rip my inbox. And like some folks have pointed out, I'm oversimplifying for the sake of brevity. Dopamine has a lot of functions, different pathways and receptor sites, etc. But for what I'm talking about, here are some sources. Dopamine, rewards, and the brain, with a handy little infographic. Dopamine jackpot, featuring the inimitable Bob Supokci. MSG is a natural substance. If you say you're allergic to MSG, you're allergic to tomatoes and cabbage and all kinds of natural food. Einstein didn't fail math. Perhaps the legend is founded in the fact that the Swiss school system has a 6 as best grade, and 1 as poorest, while the German is the other way round. Source in his matriculation certificate. The low man on the totem pole was actually the strongest in the Native American societies because he held up the rest of the tribe. Water isn't actually conductive. It's the impurities in the water that allows it to conduct electricity. Edit. For those that are commenting that it can conduct electricity, albeit not very well, I am aware, but it conducts so very poorly that it is essentially negligible. So for simplicity's sake, it's easy enough to say it doesn't conduct electricity. Those that can't do, teach, is a mockery of a quote by Aristotle. Those that know, do. Those that understand, teach. Marie Antoinette never said, "Let them eat cake." The first written account of this story is from 1767 and doesn't attribute the quote to her. She would have been 12 at the time, and would go on to marry Louis XVI 3 years after this quote was initially published. Leaning your head back is actually worse for a nosebleed. Ostriches don't bury their heads in the ground. that the air in your bag of chips isn't oxygen but nitrogen so that your product doesn't. Not sure if it's for most people, but the people I've come across had this wrong almost always. Canberra is the capital city of Australia, not Sydney. Long Island iced teas do not have iced tea in them. Singers, almost universally, have a consistent tendency to sing slightly flat, not sharp. It's due primarily to lack of proper breath support and not because they have a tin ear for music. After living in Slovakia for 7.5 years, I got beyond frustrated when people would tell me that I would catch a cold from simply being in cold weather, or that air conditioning in the summer makes you sick, or that you treat a cold with antibiotics, or that sitting on cold concrete will give you hemorrhoids. I tried to refute all of this with actual evidence, but it fell upon deaf ears. I loved my time there, but good lord, the old health superstitions are alive and well. A monsoon isn't rain. It is a seasonal wind. Monsoon winds actually bring droughts at certain times of the year, and rain in other parts. It's a monsoon outside is not a correct thing to say when it's pouring. The word helicopter is a combination of helico, spiral, and pter, one with wings. Edit. Most people assume the word breaks down into helicopter without realizing those two words mean nothing in this connotation. Being schizophrenic does not mean you have multiple personalities. That it's a good idea to make furniture out of old pallet wood. No, that stuff gets treated with all kinds of pesticides when shipped overseas so you don't transfer any bugs or fungi. You don't want the gases emerging from it in your living room. I've even seen baby beds made from that shit. Your hair and nails don't actually keep growing after you die. Your body just loses moisture and fluids, making your body dehydrate and shrink up. This gives the illusion that your fingernails and hair appear longer. The myth of Narcissus. Most people think of it as he has fallen in love with himself, missing the distinction and nuance that he falls in love with the image of himself. This is important. If you run into any narcissist, you will notice the image they have of themselves is quite different from who they actually are. That my mother was right. I am a super smart and handsome boy with cute dimples. Edit. Wasn't expecting this to blow up. Thanks for the upvotes. I was a bullied and awkward kid that didn't fit in growing up. I had a high school reading level in 2nd grade, but ADHD so bad that I graduated high school with a 2.1 GPA and had an IEP. My dimples were from getting my ass beat by 4/5 kids walking home from school. Junior high and high school wasn't easy. Fast forward almost 25 years. I am a criminal defense attorney, have 2 beautiful kids, and I occasionally comment here. I listen to my mom and never let the trolls win. Anastasia is not a Disney movie and she is not a Disney princess. When the post or comment score is at 69, 420, etc., it's not actually. The votes fluctuate every time you ask to see them. It's called vote fuzzing, and it helps prevent vote cheaters knowing if their attempts are working. Late edit. It doesn't actually stop vote cheaters, but it makes it harder for them to know if it's working. Vote cheaters are the losers of Reddit that use multiple accounts or bots to get their content upvoted, or others downvoted. Also, I've added a link to an admin comment verifying this. Thanks you, Eraz. Picture a hymen. If you're thinking of a sort of sheet or membrane that covers the vagina and is popped by intercourse, you're wrong. It's actually a thin piece of tissue that only partly covers the entrance to your vagina. There are some cases where it does completely cover it. This is known as an imperforate hymen. It can cause some not insignificant health issues, and is very rare. It doesn't always hurt when it breaks. It's as likely to be broken by accident long before you have sex as it is to be pristine when you do. And sometimes it just disappears by itself without breaking. Either way, despite the idea that it's some sort of foolproof virginity test, whatever you define virginity as, anyway, It's still a pretty vague concept. It leaves a lot to be desired. Beer won't skunk if you let it get warm after getting cold. It's all about light exposure. Edit. Thank you to everyone who was able to better refine the statement that I made. It should be noted that extreme and extended changes in temperature will in fact affect the flavor of a beer. Conceiving twins is only genetic through women, and that's only fraternal twins. Identical twins are completely random. Edit. Wow, I've never had this much response to anything on the internet ever. Thanks for the award. Edit 2. I guess men might be able to pass on the gene for future generations, but the sperm itself isn't going to create twins. Also, I'm not an expert on the subject, so thanks for all the input. Edit 3. And just to clarify, I am only talking about when you have people saying dumb things like, I have a high chance of having twins, BC my husband is a twin, which is false. Fertility treatments, age, etc. does also increase your chances. The definition of an introvert. Not all introverts hate people and never want to socialize. Being introverted just means that social interaction is physically and mentally draining, compared to an extrovert, who gains energy through social interaction. We introverts still like to get out and have a good time and can genuinely enjoy it. It's just going to require some downtime after. For all intents and purposes, a spade is the flat shovel, not the pointed one. Edit. https://yen.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/spade. That fun fact, you eat 8 spiders in your sleep each year. If you even think about it a little bit, it makes no sense. A lot of American homes don't have an abundance of spiders, and they usually just tend to their webs or live in areas without a lot of foot traffic. They usually don't even intentionally crawl into someone's bed because it offers no prey. And spiders only view us as part of the landscape because we're so big. Spiders would also most likely be scared of sleeping people because of the vibrations caused by breathing and/or snoring. A lot of people don't actually sleep with their mouth open, and if they do, they're probably snoring, which again repels spiders. Also, I know not everyone believes this, but apparently at my school it's still being taught that blood is blue until it interacts with oxygen. Blood is never blue. It's just a darker red. The reason veins are blue is because of the way light penetrates your skin. Edit. Added some clarification and extra info. Edit number 2. The spider fact was not an experiment to see how fast misinformation would spread. That was also a fake fact.